Tanse, adowi anitotem, Pawâcikêwikamik. Hello friends, my name is Brianna Couture. I am from Gordon's First Nation in Treaty 4 territory, living here in Saskatoon, Treaty 6 territory, and welcome to our Cricut tutorials. In our session today, we will be going over our Cricut machines and tools. So let me introduce you to the Cricut Maker. The Cricut is a crafting, die-cutting machine, and this wonderful machine can be used to cut many different materials for many different projects. We also have here some mats, we have some tools, and also the Cricut heat press, also known as the Easy Press. So let's get started, and we'll take a look here at the Cricut Maker machine. So this is the Cricut Maker here. On the back side, we have two plugs, one for power and then one that is a USB-A cable to be connected to your computer. So the Cricut Maker is connected to a laptop, a computer. This could also be used with a tablet or a mobile phone device, as it has Bluetooth capabilities. So if you're using a tablet or a mobile phone, you'll use the Design Space app, or if you have a Windows or Mac computer, you can download Design Space software to be able to use the Cricut machine. Now, if we open up the Cricut machine, I love the smooth transition as it all slides open here. And within the Cricut machine itself, we have a nice little tray here. So if you are using like a tablet or a phone, you can actually prop it up to kind of stand here inside the tray. We also have within the door a little space here, and so you could store tools, extra blades, wonderful little goodies hidden down deep inside as well. Looking here at the Cricut casing, so we actually have an A clamp and a B clamp. And this housing actually is going to move back and forth across the machine as these little wheels and rollers will move the mats and the materials in and out of the Cricut machine. So the B clamp here is the most used clamp, and this one houses our blade. Right now, the blade that we have in here is just a premium fine point blade, so that's the average kind of vinyl. You know, most materials you use the premium fine point blade. You could also get a knife blade, engraving tool. There's so many different tools that you could actually get for the clamp here. And in the A clamp, this one actually has a pen holder, so you could use the Cricut pens to write with the Cricut machine, or else you could also use that for a stylus, which can help with, say, if you're doing maybe like some cardstock or some paper projects, you might need to have the Cricut draw in some folding lines for you, so you could use the stylus for that. And over here on the left side of the Cricut machine, we've got a couple of buttons. Up top here is the power button. We also have a feed button, so that's what draws the material into the machine or spits it out when you're done your cut. The play button is how you get the cut started. Or there's a pause button as well, just in case you see something happening with your cut, you're able to just stop the machine where it's at instead of letting it finish and go all the way through. So that's kind of what you're looking at in terms of the Cricut machine here. We've also got this lovely little cup holder, I guess, on the side here where you're able to store some products. And so I have tools in here. We've got the Cricut scissors, we've got a spatula, and this is great for lifting materials off the mat. Say you were doing, again, paper, cardstock kind of projects, you could use this to lift those off. We have some weeding tools here, and so this is where you would pick the negative out of the vinyl so that you're able to just be left with your image, and some tweezers. This little tool here is a scraper tool, so if you're applying a removable or a permanent vinyl project, you can actually scrape it right on into space there. So nice to keep them handy here with the machine and the little pocket. Next, let's talk about the mats that you can get with the Cricut machine. So here we have the 4 different kinds of mats available. We've got a purple, a pink, a green, and a blue mat. Our purple mat here, this is the Cricut Strong Grip mat, and so this would be used for materials such as chipboard or wood, any of the thicker materials that you're going to really need to like stick on to the mat so that the Cricut can cut it. The next mat we have here is the pink mat, and this mat is used for fabric. So if you're looking at designing an applique, maybe you're doing some ribbon skirts or ribbon shirts, you'll be able to use the fabric mat here to cut the fabric out in the Cricut machine. The green mat here is our standard grip mat, and this one will be used for pretty much all vinyls and cardstock, any of your paper products. You could use the standard grip mat here. And finally, our blue mat, the light grip mat, and this one can be used to cut like tissue paper or any of those really fine materials that you don't want to be damaged by getting stuck to something. Now these mats are reusable. I noticed some of them here that we have are, looking maybe a little bit worse for the wear, a little bit gunky, but you could actually just take this to a sink, and with some dish detergent or dish soap, you could actually just kind of scrub away some of the rough stuff. So then you get kind of a stickier mat again. Another trick, if your mat is looking a little rough, is you could actually use masking tape to tape your material down to the mat. And that way, it's held down flat in place, and it's not going to curl up or get caught in the wheels in the Cricut machine. Now this tool here is one of my favorite tools. This is the material slicer. So it has measurements across the top, across the side here. This small blade, watch yourself because there's a blade in here, can be used to slice the material right at the proper measurement for you. And it has this wonderful extending little arm to be able to measure your product out as far as you need there. Now over here we have the Cricut Easy Press, and this press is used for heat transfer vinyl when you're applying it to different fabrics. The buttons on this press here, we have a power button, we have a temperature button, a timer button, which you can increase or decrease, and then the Cricut button. So if we were to turn this on, you would see that you could change the temperature by pressing the temperature button, and you can raise it or lower it. Or you could change the timer as well. So press the timer button, and you can raise that or lower that just based on the material that you're using and the vinyl that you're using. Once it's up to temperature, the C Cricut button will turn green, letting you know that it's hot enough to be able to use. And then once you set the press on your material with your vinyl, you'll be able to hit the C button, and it'll beep when your timer's up. So it'll help you keep track of how long you need to press for. So wonderful, smart tool here. The iron itself is much better than a home iron. It gets a lot hotter. The heat is more even, so you'll just have to really watch yourself, as you can very easily burn yourself on something like this. But we have these wonderful little trays to be able to set the iron back into so that you're not melting furniture or yourself. So let's talk about some of the materials that you can use with the Cricut Maker. Here we've got a couple of Cricut products. We have got some premium vinyl. And so this is a permanent vinyl, meaning whatever you stick this to, it'll be stuck there until you get a blade and actually scrape it right off. So this would be great for projects like bumper stickers, or if you have a business and you need to put your business name or in hours in the window, you could cut that out of this vinyl and stick it up on your window for your customers. So as a very wonderful project. Here as well, you could see it's used on like a tumbler or a cup. So permanent vinyl is great for those hardware, for the heavy wear kind of products, if you're going to be washing them a lot or needing to have it stuck for a long time. Permanent vinyl. Now, when you cut a permanent vinyl, you're going to have to get a transfer tape to be able to take the vinyl off the backing of the backing paper and transfer it onto whatever surface you're putting your design onto. So the transfer tape here, it can be used with the permanent vinyl, it could be used with removable vinyl, and you're basically lifting your design off the backing to be able to stick it onto the surface that you choose. We've got another brand here. This is Pawâcikêwikamik 651, and this is one of the best, in my limited crafting experience, one of the best permanent vinyls on the market. It holds really well, and lots of great colors that you're able to create your designs with. And again, this permanent vinyl will need a transfer tape to be able to lift it off the backing paper and set your design. Now this here we have Caesar HTV, and HTV stands for heat transfer vinyl. So this is what you would use to transfer vinyl onto fabric, onto wood. And you would be using your heat press to cut it all out, or sorry, the heat press to press that onto either your fabric or your wood. Caesar is another great brand. They have lots of wonderful options in terms of designs and colors, holographic vinyls, and you can get pretty creative with some of the fun materials that you have there. So let's look at how you can stick some material to the mat. So I'm going to be using the Pawâcikêwikamik 651 permanent vinyl. It's this lovely royal blue color. And let's say the design that I have is going to be about 10 centimeters wide. So what I do is I will take the Cricut slicer here. I extend the arm as 10 centimeters is just a bit beyond what the edge here is. So I'm able to look at the 10 centimeter line here. And I just feed the vinyl through the slicer. And once I have the measurements set up here, I just grab this little gray slicer thing and push it all the way through. And that will actually separate 10 centimeters of the vinyl from the roll here. Now with permanent vinyl, this one is actually placed face up. So you're going to set the color side up and stick it to the top of the mat. This mat isn't very sticky, so I'm actually going to use some of this masking tape to hold it in place. So I'm just squaring it up in the top left corner here. And then I'm just going to barely place the masking tape on the margin there so that it's just touching the mat and just touching the vinyl here. We don't want to cover too much of the vinyl with the masking tape, as that can cause the blade to have to cut through more layers and may not get you the full cut that you want through here. We can see it's still rolling up, so I will tape down the other side here. And I'm just folding the excess over the side, as these will be fed through the machine, so we want to make sure that there's nothing hanging off the side or making it not fit through the wheels there. It's a very small margin to fit under the wheels, the rollers there. Again, this isn't very sticky, so I'm actually going to do a little taping against the bottom there. And so now it's looking pretty flat and it'll be ready to feed into the machine. Now when feeding the mat into the Cricut machine, we have these wonderful guides here on the door that opens up, and we can see inside there's some small footings that we actually slide the mat underneath. And so once the mat is underneath those footings, that'll help keep it in place as the machine draws it in. You'll need some clearance in the back end here as the mat will come all the way through. So you'll have to make sure that there's nothing bumping right up against the machine back here. So let's pull it in. At this point, it's just making sure that the mat is the right mat that we said in design space. And the housing is getting prepared to cut. The play button's flashing, so that lets us know it's ready to cut. If this is your first cut with this material or you haven't used the machine in a while, it's always a good idea to do a test cut, a small kind of design, just to make sure that your blade is sharp enough and everything's going to work the way it's intended to. Once the cut is done, you can see the feed button is flashing, and that allows us to spit it out now. And there we've completed our first cut. Now, when removing the vinyl from the mat, it's not too important with this mat as it's not very sticky, but if your vinyl were really stuck to a mat, the trick to remove is to flip the mat upside down. And so you would flip it upside down and keep your vinyl flat as you peel the mat away from the vinyl. Because if it was a sticky mat and you tried to just peel it up like this, you could wreck the rest of your vinyl, you could damage your design, and can be troublesome in that sense. So the best way to do it is to flip your mat right over and then peel it away from the vinyl and the design.